I have just got my nails done for the first time ever, and so I think I should show you my nails. Can you see that? Even though that was entirely irrelevant to this video. I have also had an allergic reaction to something in my skincare, so if my face looks really red, that's why. I created the quarter year crisis tag a few years ago because there was nothing to round off the beginning of the year as a tag that went round. We have the mid-year freak out and the end of year book tag, but I thought let's put one at the start of the year as well. So it is a quarter of the way through 2025 now, and I want to answer these questions. First one is, how many books have you read so far this year? I have read 22 books so far on the 30th of March when I'm filming this, and I am nearly finished at 23rd. So 23 books basically. I will be finished by the end of March. Question number 2 is, have you already found a book that you think might be a 2025 favourite? If not, what's the best book you read so far this year? The best book I have read so far this year is a poetry collection, and it might end up in my 2025 favourites. That is Nobody by Alice Oswald. So Alice Oswald is a poet and also has a classics degree, and this is a retelling of the Odyssey, but this one was first published, I think, fairly before the big glut of them. 2019. Early days on the glut of retellings, although I do think poetry retellings are older than novel retellings. Anyway, I will go back. I would digress, but this is a retelling of the Odyssey that is in part from the perspective of Odysseus, but mostly from the perspective of an unnamed man on his boat who is abandoned somewhere, and it is there's a lot of water and sea throughout. The sea is kind of also a character, as it were. So Nobody of the title is Odysseus, because if you know the Odyssey, when he when he tells Polyphemus, the Cyclops, his name, he says his name is Nobody, so that when they start attacking Polyphemus, he will say, nobody is hurting me, nobody is attacking me. But Nobody is also this unnamed sailor who is a nobody, and I really enjoyed it. Did I understand what was going on most of the time? Not at all. But it is really, really beautiful, wonderful language, absolutely stunning poetry. And for me, that is kind of all I need with poetry. I don't need it to be saying something massive or to have a point or a perspective. I just need it to sound nice. In which a spirit, leaning languorously from the porthole, poured stillness over the sea like a jug of milk, and there were bones everywhere, and feathered people stood singing on the stones on rickety thin legs, with tilted chins and pressed flat wings. The images are just so perfect and poignant and lovely, and I really, really enjoyed it. I do find it quite hard to describe a poetry collection, but it is just really crystalline, lovely, beautiful images that are kind of vignettes and moments, kind of referring to the humanness of this myth and the people within it. There is a lot about mortality, I think. Question number 3 is any 1-star books or your least favourite book that you have read so far this year. So we have The Christmas Wish and also The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. This one's by Lindsay Kelk. These are 2 romance books that I was asked to read for my In Real Life book club. I hated both of them, and they are very similar. So The Christmas Wish is the story of a woman who is she's been fired from her job as a lawyer and she's down on her luck. She's very clumsy and kooky. She's just been broken up with by her boyfriend, and she goes home for Christmas and she ends up in a Groundhog Day situation where she is constantly repeating the day, and has to find the good of life and find the reason why in order to escape the repetition. And The Dead Romantics is about a woman who is about to lose her job as a ghostwriter for a romance person, and also broke up with a toxic ex-boyfriend and is so kooky and clumsy and quirky. Her family owned a funeral home, and she goes from New York back to this small town after her father dies. But the other thing about her is that she can see ghosts, and one day a ghost shows up she is not expecting. And so in both of them we have this kooky, quirky main character who is, that is it for characteristics. She doesn't have a personality other than that. It is very much a Bella Swan self-insert style girl who gets herself into crazy, zany slapstick situations, and that is where the humour is supposed to come from. Both of them use really cringy, cliched language. This one's obsessed with Harry Potter. The other one talks about doggos and zoom zoom juice. They are both just disgustingly written. I really couldn't stand either of them, and neither of the main male romantic leads have any character or personality either, aside from being hot. And it's sort of like, maybe this is why I prefer rom-coms visually, because like if I see your rom-com lead, maybe I can be like, I understand the interest even if they have no personality. In a book, however, I'm gonna need more than that. So yeah, I really didn't like either of them, and I know I'm not a huge romance reader anyway, but I definitely think you can do better than either of these. Question number 4 is, what is your most read genre this year? Mine is literary fiction. 11 of the books I've read so far have been literary, or half of them, and then contemporary, and then historical. And obviously there's a lot of overlap. Some of the literary is contemporary, some of the literary is historical. And I also don't think that Storygraph is particularly good at the way that it does genres. A lot of the time it doesn't seem to make very much sense. But that's all I've got to go on. I'm not making my own like spreadsheet that's calculating these things for me. But I think that is to be expected. Generally, I read mostly literary fiction, followed by, as an actual genre, historical fiction. Question number 5 is a book that surprised you. A book that surprised me in a good way would be The Wedding People by Alison S. Batch. Particularly the first half of that book surprised me in a good way. It is about a woman who is a adjunct professor who works in Victorian literature, and she decides to go to a hotel to end her life. But when she gets there, she ends up mixed up in this wedding party, and as the story unfolds, we kind of discover more about her life and her experiences that led her to this place, and also the lives and experiences of the wedding party. Kind of mother-daughter relationships and love and expectations from life, and the way those things can harm you, the expectations others have of you, or never truly being able to understand other people. And to begin with, I did enjoy it. It talked a lot about like the marriage plot, and the like kind of foreshadowed how the book was going to work out, but I did feel that like the ending was a little too neat. But I went into it with not particularly high expectations, and I definitely think it did better than I thought it was. A book that surprised me in a negative way would be Watermoon, which is a book with a lovely cover that I had seen people on Instagram talking about as being like a really great book that they loved this year. And I read it and thought it was really bad, like really badly written. And so I was surprised that so many people had praised it so highly. It is about a woman whose father runs this pawn shop, and it is, when people turn up to the pawn shop, they do so by mistake, thinking that they're going into a noodle shop. It's in Tokyo, and they end up coming in and they give away a choice that they made, a choice that they like regret, and in order to get rid of that regret. And then it kind of spirals out from there into these two worlds, and the kind of structure of the world. And there's a specific man who turns up at this pawn shop, and that changes things forever for our main woman, who has just taken over from her father and running this pawn shop. And I thought it had some really lovely like setting ideas, but it didn't flesh them out or do any description to make them feel tangible. It just like kind of gave you the bare bones of the idea and expected you to take it from there. The characters themselves were empty, the shells, there was absolutely nothing to them. Their relationship with one another was ridiculously underdeveloped. I think the whole thing was just underbaked. There was nothing to it, and the plot felt too convenient and too easy. Everything that had to happen happened so simply for these characters, and so we are given the idea that they are under this huge amount of stress and strain, and things are going to be very difficult for them, but the way that things work out is actually super simple, and they never feel like they're in actual peril, which I think you kind of need peril to set these stakes. If you're claiming that your stakes are so high, they have to also feel high. You can't just tell us that they are and expect us to go along with it. Like, there was no feeling of surprise in the reading of this book whatsoever. Question is a book that's come out already in 2024 that you want to read and haven't got to yet. And I would say that I have a couple for this. I have The City Changes Its Face by Emo McBride, which I think came out in February. Ema McBride is a writer that I know a lot of people love from A Girl is a Half-Formed Thing, and so I have been meaning to read her since then, and this one came out, but I was rejected for it on NetGalley, so I have not yet read it. This is set in 1995. In the flat there is only Stephen and Eiley. Their bodies, the tangled sheets, unpacked boxes stacked in the kitchen, and the total obsession of a new love. 18 months later, the flat feels different. Love is merging with reality. Stephen's teenage daughter has reappeared, while Eiley has made a choice, the consequences of which she cannot outrun. Now, I know that Ema McBride wrote like stream of consciousness, kind of experimental style of writing, and that is one of the reasons why I wanted to read her. The other one is one that I have seen absolutely all over Instagram, and this one was published before I could request it. This is The Lamb by Lucy Rose, which came out in January, and as I said, I've seen it everywhere. It is a gripping, sinister folktale set in contemporary Cumbria, and I love creepy, weird, dark, folktale adjacent books. Margot and Mama have lived in the forest since Margot can remember. When Margot is not at school, they spend quiet days together in their cottage, waiting for strangers to knock on their door. Strays, Mama calls them. Mama loves the strays. She feeds them wine, keeps them warm, then satisfies her burning appetite by picking apart their bodies. But Mama's want is stronger than hunger sometimes, and when a white-toothed stray named Eden turns up in the heart of a snowstorm, little Margot must confront the shifting dynamics of her family, untangle her own desires, and make her own bid for freedom. And I have seen a lot of people talking about this one. It's definitely up there with one of the more popular lit fic releases of this year, or horror adjacent literary fiction. I'm not sure what it would be classed as, but it is one that I've seen lots of people talking about, and I want to be in on the conversation. The next question is, what is a 2025 release still to come that you would like to read? And I do have a whole video of spring 2025 releases, which I'll leave in the cards above. But one I didn't mention there that I am excited about is The Empire of Gladness by Ocean Vuong. Like Ema McBride, Ocean Vuong is another author that I have heard lots of people talking about and loving. I know that he is a poet, and I enjoy novels written by poets. And so this one's coming out in May, and I definitely want to get on that bandwagon as well. This is about a 19-year-old boy named Hai who lives in East Gladness, a town in Connecticut. Right before he jumps off a bridge to commit suicide, an old woman suffering from dementia named Grazina urges him to reconsider. From then on, he becomes her caretaker. So it is, I think, going to be kind of a deep interpersonal novel about care and love, and I am interested mostly because it's Ocean Vuong rather than anything to do with that synopsis. The next question is one goal you've made that you are succeeding at, and then the one after that is one goal you've made that you need to focus more on. And I made this tag back when I was making videos about my reading goals for the year and having goals and ideas. That's not really something that I do very much anymore. I did set my reading goal this year on Storygraph for 100 books, because last year I decided not to set any reading goals. I thought I would just let myself read, and I didn't find that particularly helpful because I still had the goal of 100 books in my head, even though I hadn't officially put it anywhere. So I was like, what's the point? I'm lying. I'm basically lying. And I also read the fewest books I've ever read last year, and that's fine because it was still a load of books. I read 77 books, but I just felt like it only really works to not set goals if not setting the goal helps you get out of the mindset of having a reading goal. And it definitely didn't for me. And I was feeling behind and like I wasn't reading enough all year, even though I didn't have that reading goal. So I just set it again this year, and I actually feel a lot more relaxed. I am, I think, 3 books behind on getting that reading goal, but I don't feel as stressed as I did when I was still having that goal of 100, even though it wasn't written down anywhere. I don't know what that is. Something about failing to meet a goal that I've set stresses me out less than having an imaginary goal, apparently. So I don't know what the psychology is behind that, but the fact that I might not make 100 books this year again doesn't really bother me. But it's there. Maybe I'll make it. Maybe I won't. Who knows? And then the other goal that I've had is to try and read all my NetGalley arcs, I think. And I think I'm not doing too badly on that this year. There are still some that I got years ago that I haven't read, which is what keeps my review number low. There are 4 books that I got a few years ago that I never got around to reading, and so I think that keeps it low. But apart from that, I seem to be all right, on track, reading them like the month ahead, which for me is pretty good. I know lots of people read them like as soon as they get them, but I'm pretty happy with that. So I guess that's the one that I am succeeding at. And then I don't think I really set any other goals. The goal that I set for Booktube was to post 10 video essays this year, and so far I have posted 2, which is right on track because I didn't post one in January, so February and March I have, and I do have plans for April, May, June and July, so I think I'm fairly on track with that. The April one, it's a bit dicey whether it'll actually come out in April because I'm away for 3 weeks of April, so I'm not sure how well I will do on that. Fingers crossed I will come back and you will see a video essay from me at the end of April. I do know what it's supposed to be, so hopefully I will still do some reading while I'm away. And then the last question is new to you booktubers or book online bookish content creators, new to you ones for 2025 or recently that you want to shout out. Now, I actually don't have any, unfortunately. I am so behind. I am still watching like December 2024 videos on Booktube. I have not caught up to be watching this year's videos yet. So if I'm behind on the people that I like actually follow and actively talk to, then I'm definitely not up to date with any new people. But if there is anyone new or smaller, like I know I'm small anyway, but like even smaller than me, that I might be interested in, that you like, please do let me know that in the comments down below. When I have time, when I have caught up a bit more with the people I already watch, I definitely want to see what new people are out there, because I know there's probably a lot of fresh people that I just haven't seen yet. So definitely do let me know that in the comments down below. And thank you very much for watching. If you are new here, my name's Roisin. I put out new videos most weeks. So I will see you very soon. Bye bye.